I didn't think they'd be this successful early on with Luka and in the West. What do you make of what they've been able to do since he got here?
Yeah, I think they've definitely outperformed what my expectations were for this year. I felt like, obviously, like everyone else, you do the deal.
Of course.
It doesn't matter if your roster is imbalanced or any of those things. You do the deal because this never happens in our league. So but the roster was imbalanced, and I still think it's imbalanced. But they've performed at a very high level. The defense has been spectacular. A lot of that started with, I think, LeBron James being more active and engaged on the defensive end in a regular season than I can remember in quite a while. Some might argue that's why he's nursing a groin injury now, because a 40-year-old isn't used to playing that hard every night on the defensive end. But the defense has been the big revelation, because we all thought, well, you swap out Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic, that Luka is pretty much the only guy really of meaningful rotation minutes, and you're going to have to deal with some sort of a drop-off defensively. And that hasn't happened. The opposite has happened. The things that we did imagine, full court outlets and moving the ball and all those things have happened, I think, to the level that we all expected. One of the other big things that I wondered about, and I wondered about at the time of the deal, because you got to remember Dalton Connect was also sent away, was, does this team have enough shooting? And what I've seen is, my answer is not really, but they've been able to win games despite not having great shooting. Now, there's two ways to look at that. Number one is, these shots are going to fall sooner or later. The law of averages means we're in for a nice little run, which could happen. And that's what usually fuels deep playoff runs. It's guys that were up and down making shots, all of a sudden are making all their shots. The glass half empty is, no, it's not enough shooting. And by the way, also not enough size. And at some point, the Lakers are going to run into something that's going to impact that. At the time of the trade and now, I still feel like we're looking at a second round knockout. First round, they're probably going to win, depending on the seeding, of course. And then they get to the second round, and in the second round, they're either going to see Oklahoma City or Denver. And if that happens, then I just don't think that they have enough size or shooting to beat either of those teams.
I remember I was listening after Lakers won that road game at Denver. And this was the game they won by 23. It's really, the Lakers.
The best win of the season. The best win of the season for them.
And the struggles that the Lakers have against Denver. And I'm listening to your podcast. By the way, Oddball with Amin and Izzy Gutierrez, and listening to the both of you talk about that game. And I thought it was interesting. A couple things that you mentioned, that game probably was as great as the Lakers played. They probably approached that game different than Denver. Denver's played the Lakers. It's okay. They've seen this. Now, granted, they've never seen it with Luka on the other side. So that's completely different. But I remember you saying that was not an ordinary game for the Lakers. It wasn't an ordinary game for JJ Redick. And Redick, did he show too much of his hand in a regular season game? And whether that matters or it doesn't matter. But I thought that was an interesting take, because it was easy for everybody to just say, oh my gosh, wow, Lakers just won at Denver. But I felt like your take was a little bit different from that perspective. These last two games that you've seen Lakers in Denver, it's kind of irrelevant, because Lakers didn't play anybody at Denver in the last game. And then yesterday, no Jokic, no LeBron, no Jamal Murray. 7 games set between those two teams. Do you still lean towards Denver? I think that's what you were saying, right? Because of the size and everything else?
Yeah, two things, because of the size and because the specifically the size comes in the form of the best player in the league.
Sure.
Okay, it's not like, like last year playing Dallas and say, look, they got a lot of size you got to deal with, or even the Thunder when they're healthy. It's like, oh, you got to deal with, it's not just their best player. The best player in the NBA is a center. And I don't think they have any answers for that. When you talk about the approach, everything in the Lakers language, JJ Redick's language, everything about it was, this was a big game. This was circled on the schedule for us, right? for the Nuggets, it was regular season game number 52 or whatever it was, right? And there is an element of like when little brother plays big brother, for little brother, it's like, always here, this is the day. And big brother's like, whatever, right?
Mm.
And so you look at that game, and they had a nice game plan, which is fronting the post and denying that entry pass and having help on the weak side and kind of pressuring up. The problem is two things. Number one is that Jokic is brilliant, right? So if you do something against him, that works, right? Schematically, not like something where I physically, every time I play XYZ, I always have problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's we did the scheme thing to take him out of his comfort zone. He's like a computer, he's like AI and like an algorithm. It's like, okay, figure that in. Next time we do this, the outcome is not going to be the same because
Sure.
I'm going to be looking for it. And I've already thought of counters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Number two is Michael Malone is an excellent adjustment coach, right? And we know this from multiple playoffs. And the playoffs are all about matchups and adjustments. Those are the two things that drive playoff success, right? Once the talent becomes roughly equal. Obviously, a more talented team versus a not talented team, that's easy. But when the talent starts to come in closely, it's matchups, it's execution, and it's adjustments. Those are the three things. So Michael Malone has proven that he's one of those guys in the league, that he makes these adjustments. JJ Redick, it's his first time at the rodeo. No matter how much you love him, no matter how much you think like this guy is going to be amazing, you have to accept that this is the first time in the rodeo. So there might be things that he's going to see when playoff basketball hits. Not regular season. This is important to me, but not important to them. But playoff basketball, it's important to everybody. There's things that he's going to see that he hasn't seen before. And number two, I think this one is huge. When you talk about young coaches, first-time coaches that have zero experience like JJ, a lot of times they're leaning on their lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at who JJ's lieutenants are. Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan. Two guys who are head coaches in this league for a long time, won a lot of games, very good coaches, very smart coaches. I would say if someone had asked me prior to this season, what do you think is like the knock on Scott Brooks or the knock on Nate McMillan? The first thing I would say is, they don't make adjustments. They don't make adjustments. And the examples that come to mind immediately for me is for Scott Brooks is NBA Finals 2012 Heat versus Thunder. The Heat Eric Spoelstra says, why am I playing like a traditional five or whatever? I'm going to play Bosh at the five and Batty at the four, and we're going to spread everything, and we're going to go pace and space. And Scott Brooks said, this is the lineup that got us to the finals. Why would I bench Perk? Even though he had the personnel, he could have moved Ibaka to the five and started Harden, and now boom, okay, you want to play rec league basketball, like where everyone is like under a certain height? We can do that too.
Might be advantageous for the Thunder.
Perhaps, right? Now, they might have still lost because LeBron and Wade and those guys were experienced players, and Durant and Westbrook and Harden were wet behind the ears. But the idea is they didn't lose because of experience. They lost because an adjustment was made, and there was no readjustment on the other side. And Scott Brooks, by his own admission, time and time again, said, "Look, don't regret it." Like, he still doesn't think he did the wrong thing. Now, that's his prerogative, right? Meanwhile, Nate McMillan, when I worked for Phoenix, the year that we lost to the Lakers in the conference finals, our first round matchup was Portland. Portland was a team that gave us problems because Andre Miller was a big guard, and putting Steve Nash on Andre Miller would cause problems. We'd be in help, and then Andre was excellent just finding guys, right? So we play, I want to say, 2 or 3 games. I want to say we were down 2-1 in the series, and we make the adjustment. Say, wait a second. Channing Frye says Nate doesn't trust Nick Batum. So Nick Batum just runs straight to the corner and just sits there. So Coach Gentry says, okay, what if we put Steve Nash on Nick Batum and put Grant Hill, who is our best perimeter defender, on Andre Miller? And so now we got size on Andre Miller. He can't do all that back down bully stuff because Grant's just bigger than him.
And they're not going to take advantage of Batum.
They're not going to
Nash guarding.
That's the adjustment someone who makes adjustments makes. Sure. Is okay. guess what? The offense is now Batum attacking that mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
But Nate's like, nope, we won 50 games, whatever, with
Hmm.
Andre Miller and Brandon Roy and LaMarcus Aldridge. We're just going to keep doing this. And we literally didn't lose another game. And those are the two lieutenants that are informing the captain. If the captain thinks, man, this isn't working so great. Oh, they're killing us in this. These are the guys who probably, I'm not saying 100% they're going to say this, but given a choice, if we have to bet, are you going to bet on them thinking that, hey, what we're doing is wrong, we have to change everything in order to adjust to this? Or are they going to think, no, we've been really successful. We're 13 out of 18 games or whatever it is since we did this trade. Why would we change who we are? I think they would probably lean towards the latter, and I think that is problematic when you get to the playoffs.
That's interesting. That's actually going to be fascinating to watch, because I think one of the things watching the Lakers night in and night out, before the trade, after the trade, it doesn't kind of matter at any point of this. I feel like JJ, one of his strengths have been, and again, playoffs is going to be different. I love that you point this out, because whatever you do in the regular season, awesome. Give JJ his credit. I'm sure there's a lot of people maybe didn't know how JJ was going to do. I thought he's done a really good job this year. But one of, I think, his strengths have been, I don't feel like he's been this stubborn coach. And you know what? I'm keeping D'Lo in the starting lineup. Whether you like it or not, that's my guy. Or I'm just using as an example. There was a moment where Dalton Connect was starting and then he came off the bench. He's kind of, I think, done a really good job of juggling what's in the best interest of the team rather than I think we should do this and it's going to eventually work. So I'm going to kind of live it or I'm going to die on this sword. But that's a great thing to point out, because I didn't know that about the assistants, that's what they're known for, is stubbornness. Nope. This is how we got here. Why would I change it now? That's an interesting wrinkle to watch once you get to the playoffs. All right, if you enjoyed this clip and you want more, just subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the Sliwa Show. And then after every Lakers game, post-game show right here.